There is an old Negro spiritual that we sing usually on Passion Sunday and on Good Friday. And it's one of those titles that asks a question. Were you there? Were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? When they pierced his side? When they laid him in the tomb? Were you there? And then it ends with that kind of threefold mantra. It causes me to tremble, tremble, tremble. But the question, were you there, is an authoritative question. It's a challenging question. It's a request to be convincing. It's a request to be a witness. Were you there? Sometimes that's even asked in certain circles with a certain amount of derision. Oh, were you there? Were you there? What are they asking for? They're asking for convincing testimony to be able to say, yes, I was there. I was there. And I think that's why the Christian faith spread so quickly in the Middle East, to Africa, to Ethiopia, and then eventually over to Europe. Because there were people who were there. There were soldiers and slaves who were shipped off. The apostles who were shipped off, who could say, yeah, we were there, we saw it. We saw it. You know, having a testimony like this is important. It rings down through the ages. You know, in every wedding that we do up here, on a happier note, every wedding that we do here, there's always the inclination of the family to have a little kid up here. And that is centuries-old tradition, so that somebody could testify, yeah, Uncle Joe and Aunt Mary, I was there. I was there, I saw it. And make sure that lasts for generations. But also, to be able to tell a convincing story, to testify that you were there. You know, St. John the Apostle was there at the crucifixion. Yeah, he was there. He experienced it firsthand. But our Blessed Mother was also there, and she experienced it in a different way. She experienced it as a mother, which is different. And that she could tell the world, yeah, I saw it. I was there. Because she has the experience of a mother. You know, every year at my birthday, my family will call and text me, happy birthday, John, happy birthday. My parents will too. But one birthday, I got up early, and I called my mother. Said, Mom, today's my birthday. She said, yes, I know. I was there. And I remember it better than you. That is a statement of testimony. You know, it's even manifest here in this parish at times. Some years ago, a parent from one of our teenagers called and said, hey, my son or daughter went to confession at 5 on Wednesday, and she said no one was there. I said, what time did they go? 5. And I said, I was there. There was a line there. We were there. She goes, no, he said no one was there. You see, but we have cameras now. We have cameras. And we brought it up, and the computer showed her, sure there it was. He walks in, looks around, walks out. Now we have eyewitness testimony. Oh, yeah, he was there, and we were there, and I was there. Discussion's over now, because that is valid testimony. But I would say to all of you here, you have all experienced things in the last few years you have to keep telling. Many of our young people don't even know what 9/11 is, but you do. You saw those images. You saw those planes hit those buildings and people falling, jumping out. You saw it. Tell those stories. Don't let people forget, because you were there. We have young seminarians that ask us, older priests now, what was it like to go through seminary during the scandal, 2002, 2018? We tell them. Why? Because we were there. We saw what happened. And those are important stories to tell. But there's even younger kids, and there's babies in here. There's babies in here. And you let them know, maybe it was good that we were locked out of our churches for a couple of years, and then we couldn't experience the Mass. And if they ask you, what was that like? You tell them. You tell them because you were there and you saw it. You saw it. It's hard to even believe now. That's why we have to keep the testimony like the little kid at the wedding, because you saw it. But that's what's awesome about being Catholic too. Because yes, we reenact Christ's entrance into Jerusalem with our palms, but we weren't there. We weren't there. But what we are present at is a sacrifice of Calvary. Because, for the ancient Jews, when they separated the Passover of the families gathering in those homes and putting blood on the posts and sacrificing lamb and consuming it, for generations to come, they would celebrate that rite. And they didn't say, well, we remember like we do. They said, no, we are here. They're here. We're experiencing them with them because this is one sacrifice that we experience together and partake and consume. Well, my friends, that's what happens here at the Mass. What Jesus did for us on the cross, we are present. We are present. And so when someone asks, where were you today? Say, I experienced the sacrifice of our Lord. I got to see it. I got to be part of it. And all these things that we talked about, 9/11, the scandals, COVID. When we think about those things, maybe we do tremble. Maybe we do. But as we approach the rest of this week, and especially as we've just read and then hit Good Friday, and we meditate and contemplate what Jesus did for us on the cross, it should make us tremble, tremble, tremble. And after we leave here today and experience the Eucharist, not only in some sense will we be trembling as we approach the Triduum, we could tell the world, why are we trembling? Because we were there. We were there.